All right, welcome to the show. It's going to be a big vaccine show today. Why? Because the approval of the Pfizer vaccine by the FDA happened. We said yesterday it was expected to happen yesterday. It happened within hours of us recording the show, publishing the show, and important to remember this is Pfizer. Moderna is a few weeks behind, but a very important development for a number of different reasons. The New York Times reporting the FDA grants full approval to the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. The FDA granted full approval for the Pfizer vaccine for people 16 and older, making it the first to move beyond emergency use status in the United States. As we talked about yesterday, about a third of those refusing the vaccine said if and when there is full approval, they will go and get the vaccine. And so now it's time to figure out whether they really will. We are going to talk about the vaccine requirements that are coming down as a result. And the New York Times also pointing out the decision is sure to set off a cascade of vaccine requirements by hospitals, colleges, corporations, and others. The Pentagon responded immediately, saying all active duty service members will be required to be vaccinated. Oregon has adopted a vaccine requirement for state workers. In a brief speech Monday, President Biden said he hoped the approval would prompt many of the roughly 85 million Americans who are unvaccinated and eligible for shots to get them. So what are the important things to remember? I already mentioned this is the Pfizer approval. Many people have gotten Moderna. Moderna is not yet fully approved, still approved under emergency use. Moderna, a few weeks behind in the pipeline. They filed for full approval shortly after Pfizer did, and it would be expected that within a few weeks, that vaccine would be approved as well. Again, important to remember that what the FDA has approved here is the 2-dose regimen, which is the standard emergency use regimen for both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. There are people writing to me, and I briefly addressed this yesterday. Well, so they've approved the 2-shot regimen, but they're already talking about a third dose at the 8-month mark. Immunocompromised folks have already started getting a third dose. There's Israeli data about the efficacy of a third dose. That's not currently approved fully. And the expectation is that Pfizer will immediately ask for that third booster shot at the 8-month mark to be approved as well. For now, the World Health Organization is leaning towards stick with 2. Let's use those would-be third doses and get them to countries and to people that haven't even had a single dose yet. That's going to help us get out of the pandemic more quickly. It's not a crazy thing to suggest, but in the United States, there is going to be the availability. I got my flu shot at CVS the other day, and the pharmacist said, we have the supply. They do Moderna, at least that CVS did, and they said once you're at 8 months, you can just come get a third dose. We're not going to be restricting it to certain groups or whatever the case may be. So now we'll start. Really, now we're branching. We had one branch which was waiting for full approval. We now have that. That's been met. We now have 2 new branches to look at. One, do the people who said I'll get it once it's fully approved, do they stick to what they said? My prediction is some do, and some move the goalposts. We already saw some of the goalposts moving yesterday. It was exactly as I predicted. Was the approval too quick? Was the approval politicized? Was the approval rushed? The question being asked on Fox News, a guest on Steve Bannon's program saying this isn't even really an approval. We'll get to all of that later. That's number one. And then number two, we were expecting and we're already seeing, and we'll talk about it later on in the program, a whole bunch of new organizations putting in place vaccination requirements. We're seeing more schools and colleges. We're seeing more cities say even just to go to restaurants. And I'm curious to see, will there be hotel chains that say this is a vaccinated only hotel? That sounds pretty good to me. I would lean towards going to that hotel chain if I needed to go to a hotel and there was a chain that did that. Is there an airline that's willing to be the first to say, you're going to need a vaccine to fly with us after a certain date? I would be very interested in trying to fly that airline. And it should not come as a shock that there are millions of people who will say, I would never do that. I will quit my job if they say, or I will never fly that airline or whatever. I think for some of them that will apply. But for many others, as soon as it becomes inconvenient to be unvaccinated, they are going to go and they are going to get themselves vaccinated because people value convenience significantly. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But next, I do want to talk about the Pentagon mandating vaccination for all 1.3 million active duty service members. One of our sponsors is Magic Spoon breakfast cereal, sweet and tasty like the cereals I loved as a kid, but without the sugar or the carbs. Every serving of Magic Spoon has 0 grams of sugar, only 4 net carbs, 140 calories, and packed with 13 grams of protein. Perfect if you're doing keto, perfect if you're doing low carb, great if you're just trying to reduce your excess sugar intake, and because it's packed with protein, it's great before or after a workout. Magic Spoon flavors include cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, and cinnamon. They're bringing back cookies and cream. They're bringing back maple waffle. You can build your own variety box and try them all. Magic Spoon is so confident in the product, if you don't love it as much as I do, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Go to magicspoon.com/Pacman. The link is underneath this video, and you'll get $5 off when you use the promo code Pacman at checkout.